quickly to recap, a big Furman win for us. Again, you look at the success that Furman's had over the last 20 years in this conference. I think it's really important to play well against that team. I think they have 16 or 18 total titles as a team, and so it was important for us to go up there. We had not won at Furman since 2021, and I felt like we had a great week of practice leading up to the game. I thought the kids did a good job in pregame. Certainly a little bit slower start than we had the last few weeks, and we'll work to get that corrected this week. But once we kind of got past those first few series, I thought our kids really played well. We did. They had the nation's leading sack producer in the one defensive end, Stone King, and I thought we did a tremendous job handling him. I thought Xavier Jennings, people need to talk more about that young man and the level that he's playing at right now at our right tackle position. But both our tackles and really our offensive line played well. Anytime you got over 620 plus yards offense, 200 plus yards rushing, 400 plus yards passing with no sacks, there's a lot that went right. I'm happy with the way that we pass protected. There wasn't a lot of big flash or splash run plays in the game. It was just real consistent where we're getting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards in chunk runs at a time, and then we made some massive plays in the pass game. I thought it was really important for us offensively, as Furman did a nice job, one, going ahead, and then two, coming out of halftime. They had the big kickoff return. We answered. They got it to 3 points, and then we answered again with 21 unanswered. And so I thought that, our offense's ability to kind of trade punches with them, and then our defense dug their heels in and really played pretty well. They had two big plays in that game. They had the 60-plus yard run and the one screen pass for about 70 yards. Those two plays accounted for about 130 of their 220 yards on the day. So I thought all in all we played generally pretty well, got to eliminate some of those big plays, but again, we were able to get after the passer. We had 4 sacks on the day defensively, and really did a nice job with the exception of those couples. So we'll work hard. A few too many return yards, that'll be an area of emphasis for us going into this game. But a little bit of that's not necessarily product of scheme, but product of health and roster limits, as you get down to it. And we're late in, really week 12, but game 10 of the season, it takes a bit. And so, we'll work hard to make sure that we got our best foot forward on those things as we roll into certainly a massive game this weekend at Western Carolina. With that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Coach, what do you feed your guys pregame? How do they have that much energy in the fourth quarter and then late in the game? Because as a reporter for the last 2 years, when games are close, whenever it seems like it's kind of the balance, there's that extra motor, there's that extra digging deep. What do you feed your guys?
Food-wise, it depends. If we're eating pregame before noon, it's breakfast-centric we'll add some grilled chicken and sometimes some pasta to it. But if it's after that, it's usually grilled chicken, some pasta of a couple different varieties, usually a potato bar of some kind. But really, it's less about what they're feeding. It's more about what Evan Barr and our strength and conditioning staff are doing. The work that those guys put in over the summer, and then again, it's our mindset. Our mindset is not to. A lot of teams just try to get through the season in the weight room, and we don't do that. I mean, for example, on Sundays, we come back in. Those guys lift on Sunday afternoon. We run them right to get some of the lactic acid out, but they run striders and sprints after post game, and I think it's just that mindset that we need to be the best conditioned team, and that mindset, that demeanor, that attitude, and then the work that went along with it, coupled with our ability to travel pretty well and eat good. As long as I'm the head coach, we're never going to eat poorly, I promise. But our kids do a good job, and they've just bought into kind of that mindset that, you got to win the fourth quarter. The team most ready to play typically wins, and the team that finishes the game usually wins in terms of fourth quarter effort.
You guys like to run the ball a lot. Before the clock, you guys had 4 drives that were scoring in less than a minute and a half. How happy are you with that as a coach to see your guys going down the field and just scoring pretty quick?
Yeah, we love big plays, and again, I think as it pertains specifically to the Furman game, some of those were answers, right? They took a couple swings at us to stay in the game or to go up there early, and I thought those answers from us, kind of trading haymakers, really that kills any momentum they may have picked up. I thought in particular the big pass to Dabbs on the third play of the second half was massive for us, right? That was a great adjustment on the football from him, and then the ability to stay up and score, and that took every bit of momentum that they had from that kickoff return and took it right away from them, and then we really didn't look back from that point.
And then, as Todd kind of mentioned in the opening there, it's the first ranked game you guys have played all season. I think at this time last year you guys played maybe 3 or 4 of those as well.
Sure.
Does that kind of mean anything to you? Does that have more of a weight? I know the rankings don't matter, the stat sheets maybe aren't the most important thing, but I'm sure that's a game you've got circled on your calendar is a really important one.
Yeah, I mean, we look at like anybody that is predicted to play well in season. I'll be honest, the mindset in this building since the final whistle of the Presbyterian game has almost been playoff mode. Like we have had an edge and a demeanor about how we go about our business, that there's an urgency to what we're doing, to how we meet, to how we practice, to how we play on Saturdays. And I hope that other people sense that urgency. And so whether they're ranked or not, there's a ton on the line. And, it's for a minimum a share of the conference championship. The winner of this game would secure the auto bid to the playoffs. So, there's a lot riding on this thing. We came here to play in big games, to coach in big games, and we have our team in position to go up and play a big-time game this Saturday.
That was another thing I was going to ask. Did you get the potential chance of a share, but you almost treat it like it is the conference championship game, even though there were 3 regular season weeks left.
Yeah, I mean, you have to recognize it, but it's that really fine line of like, yes, you have to get up because it's a big game. You have to make sure you're ready to play, but you can't be over emotional about it, right? I was always told by a coach of mine, play on the verge of a rage, because if you cross that line, then you're out of sorts, and that's when you make mental mistakes. So you got to walk right up to that line, get yourself as mentally and physically prepared, emotionally prepared to play really well, and then make sure that you don't cross it, that you're in control of your actions at all times.
And it's college kids, so younger kids, how do you get them to kind of meet to that line and not go over, keep themselves composed, locked in and bought in as you?
Yeah, I mean, it's our habits. It's what we consistently do daily. It's the buzzword of culture. It's that there is a standard for how we meet, how we practice, the body language and demeanor, and the effort level at practice. And there's no pulling back on that. If it doesn't meet the standard, it gets redone. And so I think just holding that line and holding them to really high expectations. Everybody just kind of knows that it's team first and that there's a certain level that you're expected to play to and function at. And if you don't do it, then you don't get to have that opportunity on Saturday.
So the offensively minded cast team you guys are playing on Saturday, what else is standing out to you from what you've seen on film and just what you've seen from them all season?
Yeah, I think they're fit. Like, one, they believe right now. I mean, it's a little bit like us. The second they made that quarterback change, and sounds like the young man was suspended for something. At the beginning of the year, he wasn't ready to play. He wasn't available the first 3 games. But since he's been back, it gives everybody in all 3 phases a bunch of confidence. I think they run around on defense. They're going to look the part. Know their defensive coordinator pretty well. He was the head coach at Tusculum when we were in the SAC, so we faced him a number of times and are familiar with kind of how he does stuff. But he presents a bunch of different looks. Some of it's unique. They do a good job confusing quarterbacks. They cover folks pretty well in the defensive back half. So I think just aside from the quarterback jumping off, they got a wide receiver room full of folks, and they've done a pretty good job protecting the quarterback. He extends plays. He's plenty athletic to pull the ball and run it, but I think the kid does a great job of keeping his eyes and his vision downfield and extending plays with his feet without necessarily running.
How impressed have you been with the maturity level of this team, particularly from that loss against Presbyterian, but the second half against East Tennessee State? But how impressed, throughout your coaching career, have you been with this particular team about the maturity level and how quick they progress? Yeah, I mean, they really remind me a lot of our 2018 team at Notre Dame College, right? Like, so when you go to that team happened to go to the national semifinals, and what that team did was they won a bunch of close games. They were never mentally or emotionally out of games. They didn't pander or play to the scoreboard, and they were young. Right? At the time, you got 60 travel spots, I think, and 38 of those guys were freshmen or sophomores. And we had a bunch of young guys contributing at a high level or first-year starters. And
it's almost like they don't know enough to get out of sorts. They play, and they're like golden retrievers. They like to play. They like each other. I think the connectivity of this team's been a big piece for us, and they're a lot of fun to coach. This group's been a blast.
Talk about your passing offense. I mean, it seems to firing in all cylinders, clicking. I mean, Dab's pulling off passes that a DB's raking his grill. I mean, everything just seems to be clicking right now passing.
Yeah, it goes to everything. It starts with the protections up front, the offensive line, the running backs, the tight ends, and then it continues into a really deep wide receiver room where we got a bunch of different guys that can make plays, and it's hard to double cover us because the second you do that, there's somebody else that's equally as fast and can make plays after the catch. And so, and you've seen our tight ends get involved here lately. So I think that, just the ability to spread the ball around, the ability to, keep people out of sorts, so to say, because we've been running the ball pretty well too. And Furman's coach, even at the end of the game, he talked about being frustrated that they couldn't pressure the quarterback much, and they had a hard time getting to him. And so, when they do certain things to try to pressure the young kid and we're getting open in the back half, it's a testament to kind of the totality of the group.
On the note of totality, it seems like you guys got a lot healthier, especially in the running game. You guys looking to get more folks back for Saturday? Anybody we should know about that's coming back or will be ready to play?
Yeah, we came out of this game pretty clean for the most part. I don't anticipate anybody that's been out for an extended time to come back. It's kind of is what it is on some of those fronts. But no, we expect to have everybody that's been available to be available.
I know you're playing your best football right now. That's when you want to be playing your best football. And you're coming into this game. Is there a point of emphasis in practice? I know you don't really change much right now this time of year, but is there a point of emphasis this week that you're playing your best ball?
Yeah, I think really for us it's, two words you hear me use a bunch if you're ever at practice is the intensity in which we practice with and the urgency to execute at a high level. So intensity and urgency. And then this week in particular, I think, it's just about our demeanor. Like how do you carry yourself? And then there's a certain level of preparedness that's needed to play well. And I think if you practice that way, typically you play that way. And so, it's nothing crazy. It's just, again, making sure that we hold them to the ultimate standard every day and that they don't allow themselves to, read their own press clippings or make the game bigger than it needs to be. We need to understand it's a big game, but again, you got to walk it right up to that line of really understanding so you can still execute.
And then, obviously, having won the championship last season, and a professional standpoint as a head coach, do you learn anything from that going into this right now in this huge matchup? Is there something you're applying from last year to this, or?
No, I wouldn't say so, man. I don't. Again, I'm pretty boring. Like we are. It is monotonous and it is tedious, hard work. But the teams, again, that can find the ways to do those tedious things well for the duration of a long season typically are pretty good. And so it's really that. Like there's no fire and brimstone speech. There's no secret sauce. It's be good at running, blocking, and tackling and work at it daily.
They seem like to always be the more physical team. Do you think you're going to out-physical Auburn now that they've gotten rid of
Listen, I'm only worried about Western Carolina. They got their own problems over there, it sounds like. So, but in all seriousness, you never like to see anybody get let go, man. There's so, yes, the head coaches are one thing, but there's a lot of families that are involved in that stuff. And so, that's part of our business, but it's kind of an ugly piece of it that a lot of folks don't realize. So,
you coached at all different levels of college football, D3, D2, D1, even at GA, really good Big Ten programs before. You've been everywhere, really. So I know you talked about being I'm the same guy every day. I like having the same habits, but is there like an uncomfortable thing that you've had to face this season that you haven't had to face before as a coach? And how have you dealt with that with all your experience?
That's a good question, Bez. I think just the totality of the roster limit and the amount of injuries, and I think you're seeing it across the country. And I'd like to think at some point maybe some of the narrative is like, hey, I think the transfer portal is a good thing, but is some of the downtime that these guys are experiencing is after they go into the portal and they're on it's essentially like a banquet search again, or a banquet circuit. They get wined and dined, but how much are they working out? They're doing it on their own because a lot of times they're not able to do it in their buildings. Is the amount of time that those people are spending looking for a new home affecting, you know, their long-term health. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's reaching at straws, but the amount of like season-ending injuries has been quite a bit this year.
And it's hard, especially because you guys play on turf, and a lot of the other teams in the SoCon play on that turf. It's a hard thing, I'm sure, to have to see with the coach, because that's almost the way that college football and a lot of the smaller schools, they go with turf.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we got a great surface. We just got a new one. I think with the amount of usage that teams put on these things, you have to be in the turf mode. I mean, it's just kind of what it is. And, you know, our stuff hasn't really been anything specific to a playing surface, and it's just been, you know, kind of been an all-time season for some weird injuries is the best way I'd put it.
You already mentioned the quarterback a little bit. Going back to that UC Davis, the weird no contest thing. You had a press conference after that, and some of the guys mentioned that quarterback all the way back after week 1, right? Talk a little bit about, you know, how excited is the defense, how well they've been doing, especially at containing the quarterback. How excited are they to play down that and move around the middle? It'll be a challenge for them last season.
Yeah, you know, they relish in that challenge. You know, similarly to what we were facing maybe last week from our offensive line perspective with Furman's defensive line, who I think, you know, the one kid gets all the pub, but I think the totality of their defensive line is pretty good. So I think, you know, our defense likes a challenge, and I mean, this kid's an elite passer. I mean, his accuracy is tremendous, and again, they got guys that can get open, they got guys that can make yards and plays after the catch. They do a pretty good job in protection, so I think they're just looking forward to a challenge. Like you know, you want to have a lot on the line and playing big games, and that's what they're looking forward to most.
You mentioned how great it was to go up to Furman and get a win. Talk a little bit about the atmosphere of the Western. I think they're going to do a purple out for homecoming, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they got all the things, man. It's homecoming, right? Traditionally, because that's kind of the only show there in Colby is the school, which is great. They have some of the highest attendance, if not the highest in our conference. So I anticipate, you know, whatever the stadium seats, I imagine if they've done a good job, the way they're selling it, the whole thing will be filled. I know the band's got, you know, 500 plus members. They'll be rocking and rolling and right behind the bench. And so, you know, I like playing in those kind of atmospheres, right? We're not going to be rattled by it. I can promise you that. I mean, these guys have played in Bryant-Denny and some other places, and, you know, but we're going to be excited to play in that kind of big time college atmosphere with a bunch on the line. I think that just lends itself to it.
Going to Ohio State, they obviously call themselves the best band in the land. Is there one
It's a biddle.
really good marching band that you've seen that rivals Ohio State in the last few years? You're like, man, they're really, because some of them are good, some of them are like, all right, and some are like, all right, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't get to see really any of them, and I'm a complete homer. I don't think anybody does it better than Ohio State's band in terms of what they do. And a lot of people, they don't realize, like, the band, it used to happen Michigan week, the band would come over to the tail end of one of our practices during Michigan week, and you would partner up with somebody in the band and like play their instrument, and they would walk us through Script, Ohio, right? Like they spell out Ohio in cursive, that's the big thing, and now they do all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it looks like animatronics, the way they march and move. It's really pretty special and neat, but yeah, man, there's only one of those.
What instrument did you have to play when you guys did that?
I don't even remember. Like, everybody always wants to be the person that dots the I. I wasn't a good enough player at Ohio State to even think about doing that. I couldn't even tell you. It's been a long time. Been hitting the head a bunch since then.
Is there a reason they do it the Michigan week? It's just the last game?
I think it's just part of the tradition. They actually just did it before Penn State, so I don't know what the semantics are. I'm sure it's just kind of where it fits best into the schedule.
Okay. Never heard of that. This is good.
Anything else? Thanks, Coach.